The street was quiet that morning, too quiet. A long row of commuters waited at the crosswalk, tapping their feet, adjusting their headphones, glancing at their watches. But all eyes were drawn to the crosswalk, where an elderly woman in a faded blue coat moved slowly, one trembling step at a time. Behind her, the impatient growl of a motorcycle engine pierced the air. And then, a voice, loud, cruel, shattered the silence. "Move it, Grandma? Some of us have places to be." The words hung there, sharp and ugly, as the old woman froze mid-step, her shoulders sagging just a little more. And from that moment, the story began to unravel, one that would reveal secrets, regrets, and a powerful identity hidden in plain sight. Tyler Blaze, known on the street as Blaze Rider, revved his matte black Harley with a showy snarl. Leather jacket, mirrored sunglasses, tattooed arms, he was the image of speed and swagger. People parted when he rode past, and he liked it that way. But today, his patience snapped. The woman in front of him was taking forever to cross. Her cane tapped feebly against the concrete, and the traffic light was about to turn. Tyler leaned on the horn. "You deaf too, lady." "S'con, the grave ain't far. Pick it up." People gasped. Some shook their heads, but no one said anything. The old woman flinched, her hand trembling around the cane handle. She didn't look at him. She didn't say a word. She just kept walking, slowly, stubbornly. Tyler peeled off angrily the second she cleared his path, tires screeching in defiance. He didn't glance back. He should have. Among the small crowd that witnessed the scene was Maya, a young woman in her early 20s. She had seen everything. The biker, the woman, the quiet humiliation. Something about it unsettled her deeply. She watched as the old woman finally reached the curb and paused, eyes distant, heart clearly heavy. Maya approached gently. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The old woman smiled faintly, the kind of smile that had weathered far worse storms than a cruel biker. "I'm just old, dear," she said softly. "That's not a crime yet, Ed, is it?" Maya's heart ached. But what she didn't know, what no one did, was who this woman truly was. And what would happen next would shake the entire city. That evening, Tyler bragged to his buddies about what he'd done. "Saw this ancient woman blocking the crosswalk like she owned it," he said, laughing over a beer. "Taught her a lesson." Ed chuckled. "Bet she cried," one said. "Bet she forgot it." 5 seconds later, another smirked. Tyler basked in the attention. He always had a chip on his shoulder, abandoned as a kid, raised in the foster system, drifting from place to place. Anger was his currency. He never stayed long enough to apologize. But this time, karma wasn't going to wait. The next morning, the city woke up to headlines that made Tyler freeze mid-sip of his coffee. Local hero returns. The reclusive Doctor Who saved thousands during the war makes rare public appearance. Below the headline, a photo. The old woman from the crosswalk. Her name? Dr. Eleanor Hayes. The article read, Dr. Hayes, 83, quietly returned to the city she once served as chief surgeon during the war crisis of 19, known for performing over 5,000 life-saving operations in makeshift combat hospitals. Dr. Hayes has lived in private seclusion for the last decade. Yesterday, she was spotted walking unaided to donate blood at St. Mary's Hospital, still giving even in her fragile state. Tyler's stomach flipped. He reread the line again and again. Still giving even in her fragile state. He suddenly remembered her eyes, not angry, not afraid, just tired. And still, he had screamed at her. The bar that night was quieter. His friends were still cracking jokes, but the laughter didn't reach him. All he could hear was his own voice yelling at someone who had given more in her lifetime than he could ever imagine. He left early, walked the long way home. The next day, he stood outside St. Mary's Hospital, hands stuffed into his pockets, unsure what to say, what to do. But Dr. Hayes didn't show up. She had disappeared again. And now the whole city was looking for her. Just as Tyler thought he could move past the guilt, the final blow came. A video filmed by a bystander hit social media. Biker yells at beloved war hero doctor. The footage was short, grainy, but the words were clear. "Move it, Grandma. Some of us have places to be." Within hours, the internet exploded. Comments raged. How dare he speak to her like that? He should be arrested. This is why we need respect for our elders. Tyler's biker crew dropped him. His phone blew up with threats, insults, even death wishes. Shops refused to serve him. His job, delivering courier packages, told him not to bother coming in. In just 48 hours, his world crumbled. 1 week later, Tyler received a letter in the mail. No return address. The handwriting was delicate, careful, Inside was a single sheet of paper. Dear Tyler, I know who you are, I know what you said, I forgive you. Because once someone forgave me when I didn't deserve it, if you want to talk, truly talk, come to Willow Lane. No cameras, no judgment, just truth. E.H. Tyler's hands shook as he read it again. She knew who he was. She knew what he did. And yet, she forgave him? That night, Tyler rode slowly down the winding road toward Willow Lane. Gone was the roaring engine. Gone were the mirrored glasses. Just a quiet man unsure of himself for the first time in a long time. As he approached a small cottage at the end of the street, a light flicked on. The front door opened, and there, standing straight-backed with a quiet strength in her eyes, was Dr. Eleanor Hayes. She looked directly at him. "Come in," she said. And just as he stepped forward, a black car parked in the shadows down the street, watching. A man inside made a call. "She made contact," he whispered. "Proceed to phase 2. The camera zooms out from the peaceful cottage and fades to black. The cottage at Willow Lane stood like something from another time. Old bricks, flowering vines, a white wooden porch where the wind whispered through chimes. Tyler hesitated at the foot of the steps. He felt smaller than he ever had on his Harley. The door creaked open again. Dr. Eleanor Hayes stood calmly in the doorway. "Come in," she said gently, as though inviting a friend, not the man who had shouted at her on a crowded street. Tyler stepped inside. The living room smelled like lavender and old books. Photos lined the mantel, soldiers, field tents, worn faces smiling in black and white. A silver medal glinted under a small lamp. "I wasn't expecting this," Tyler said, awkwardly. Eleanor smiled faintly. "No one ever does." He glanced around. "You live alone?" Her eyes twinkled. "Not really. I live with memories. And some of them are loud." She motioned for him to sit. A warm cup of tea was already waiting. For the first time in years, Tyler found himself talking without posturing. About his childhood in foster homes. About how he dropped out. About how yelling had always been easier than crying. "I didn't know who you were," he said softly. "That's the thing about people," Eleanor replied. "We shouldn't have to be famous to be treated with dignity." Silence filled the room, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. And Tyler's walls, one by one, began to crack. After a long pause, Eleanor spoke again, voice quieter this time. "Do you know what it's like," she asked, "to save lives every day? Only it'll be forgotten when you're no longer needed?" Tyler didn't answer. "I've buried more soldiers than I can count, held boys as young as you, bleeding out in my hands." Her voice trembled. "I left the battlefield, but it never left me." She turned away, wiping a tear. "I was supposed to testify about what really happened, but someone stopped me." Tyler frowned. "Stopped you? Who?" She looked at him, a shadow in her eyes now. Men who didn't want the truth to come out. Men still in power. Across town, inside a nondescript office lit by a single desk lamp, two men reviewed surveillance photos. In one, Tyler entering Eleanor's cottage. In another, Eleanor at the hospital the day before. "She's talking again," one said. "We warned her." The other man, older and colder, placed a folder on the desk. It read, "Project Orchid, classified. Time to shut it down," he said. Eleanor handed Tyler an old file. "Read it," she said. "Not now. Later. And be careful who you trust." Tyler accepted it carefully. "What is this?" "The truth," she whispered. "And a target." Before he could respond, a knock shattered the stillness. Eleanor froze. She looked at the clock. Midnight. No one good knocks at this hour. Eleanor moved quickly, pulling a small wooden box from under the bookshelf. "Take the file. Go out the back. Now." Tyler hesitated. "I'm not leaving you." "Tyler," she said firmly, "I've lived through worse. But they'll kill you to keep you quiet." The knock came again, louder this time. She shoved him toward the back door. "If anything happens to me, find Colonel Garrison. He'll know." "Colonel, go!" Tyler slipped out just as the front door was kicked in. He ducked behind a bush, heart pounding, as two men in black stepped into the cottage. Eleanor stood firm, her cane replaced by something metal and cold in her hand. "You picked the wrong old woman," she said. The screen fades to black. Tyler's boots pounded the wet pavement. The file pressed tightly against his chest, wrapped in Eleanor's old scarf. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Inside the cottage, he'd heard shouting. Then, a sharp crack. A gunshot. His heart seized. He wanted to go back, to fight. But Eleanor's voice echoed in his mind. Find Colonel Garrison, he'll know. Tyler ducked into an alley near the edge of town and slipped behind a boarded-up laundromat. He collapsed onto an overturned crate, breath-fogging in the cold. Carefully, he opened the file. Inside, aged documents, old photographs, handwritten notes, and stamped on the top corner, Operation Orchid declassification blocked. He flipped through photos of young soldiers lying wounded, reports of unethical field experiments, mentions of prototype trials on injured veterans. And again the same three names appeared. Dr. Eleanor Hayes, Colonel Silas Garrison, General Marcus Holloway. Tyler swallowed hard. This wasn't just some government red tape. It was a buried crime. And people were still willing to kill to keep it buried. Back at the cottage, smoke curled from a shattered window. Furniture lay overturned. But there was no body. Only a trail of blood leading to the rear hedges. And one missing handgun. Eleanor Hayes was gone, but not dead. And her pursuers were furious. Tyler took the first bus out of town at sunrise. Destination, Fort Belridge, the last known address listed under Colonel Silas Garrison's name. The town was quiet, military-leaning, dotted with aging veterans and American flags faded by time. At a rundown shooting range near the outskirts, Tyler found him, a tall, wiry man with sharp gray eyes and a permanent limp. "Colonel Garrison?" Tyler asked, approaching carefully. The man turned slowly. "And you must be the biker kid," he said flatly. Tyler blinked. "You know who I am?" Garrison nodded. "Eleanor said you'd be coming. Though frankly, I expected you to chicken out." In the back room of the range, Garrison laid it out. Operation Orchid was supposed to help wounded soldiers walk again. It started with stem cell therapy, then escalated. They pushed experimental tech, memory dampening, behavior conditioning. Tyler stared, stunned. They turned broken men into weapons, Garrison continued. And when Eleanor tried to blow the whistle, they shut her down, burned her reputation, threatened her life. "And now?" Tyler asked. "Now she's dangerous again," Garrison said. "She survived long enough to become a liability." Tyler leaned back, processing everything. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm just some punk who yells at old ladies." Garrison lit a cigar, studying him. "Because Eleanor saw something in you," he said simply. "And I trust her judgment more than I trust anyone else in this godforsaken system." Tyler looked down at the file. Pages of pain, proof of betrayal. "She's still alive," he whispered. "I bet on it," Garrison said. "But if you want to help her really help, you have to decide right now. Are you in this fight?" Somewhere deep in the city's underground, a door creaked open. A figure stepped into a dusty room, clutching her side, blood soaking through her sleeve. Eleanor Hayes collapsed onto a cot, breathing hard. A young nurse, someone from the old days, hurried to her side. "We need to move you," the nurse said. "They know you're alive." Eleanor grabbed the nurse's arm. "Not yet," she gasped. "There's something I need to finish." She pulled a flash drive from her coat. "Find the boy? Tell him it's not just about soldiers anymore." Back at the range, Tyler stared at a wall of old military photos. "You ready to take down a general?" Garrison asked. Tyler's jaw clenched. "Let's do it." They shook hands. Then, a sound outside. A faint beep, a quiet click. Garrison's eyes widened. Down. An explosion tore through the back of the range. Flames erupted, throwing Tyler backward. The file, the evidence, burned in seconds. Smoke filled the room. And from across the street in a black SUV, a man lowered binoculars and made a call. "We located the file. It's destroyed. Begin phase 2. Terminate the targets." The camera zooms in on the ashes curling through the smoke and fades to black. The air was thick with soot. Tyler coughed violently as he crawled through the wreckage, blood dripping from a gash above his brow. Colonel Garrison lay slumped against a shattered beam, his leg twisted unnaturally. "Garrison!" Tyler shouted. The older man groaned. "I'm fine," he rasped. "They knew we were here." Tyler pulled him to his feet, dragging him into the alley behind the range just as sirens echoed in the distance. "You were right," Garrison muttered. "This goes higher than we thought." Tyler's hands trembled as he reached into his coat pocket, only to find the folder gone, burned. All the proof reduced to ash. Or so he thought. In a candle-lit basement beneath a long-abandoned bookstore, Eleanor Hayes stitched the wound on her side with shaking hands. She winced, not from pain, but from the weight of time. The nurse beside her, Lena, spoke urgently. "They bombed the range, the biker and Garrison." "I know," Eleanor interrupted. Lena blinked. "How?" Eleanor pulled a small earpiece from her bag. "I never stopped listening. She turned toward an old radio transmitter and flipped it on. "If Tyler's alive, he'll come to me." Back in the alley, Tyler helped Garrison into a stolen pickup truck. "I know where she is," Tyler said, tightening his grip on the wheel. "She'll be waiting." Garrison nodded grimly. "You better pray she still has the second drive." They drove through the night, dusty roads, winding through forgotten corners of the city toward the one place Tyler never expected to return to, the place he last screamed at Eleanor Hayes. When Tyler and Garrison reached the old bookstore, the door creaked open slowly. Eleanor stood behind it, pale but strong, a bandage on her arm and a pistol at her side. Their eyes locked. No words at first. Then she whispered, "You're late." Tyler stepped forward, choked with relief.
You're alive.
Eleanor half smiled. Barely. Garrison limped forward. "They hit us hard. They always do when they're cornered," she said, and led them inside. In the back room, Eleanor opened a rusted lockbox and pulled out a small, pristine flash drive. "This is what they were after," she said. "The full records. Names, tests, survivors." Tyler leaned in. Among the files, documents labeled MK Orchid Alpha and photos of patients with surgical scarring and clouded eyes. One face made Tyler freeze. "That's..." "Yes," Eleanor confirmed. "That's my son." She turned to them slowly. "My son was one of the first volunteers. They told him it was for science to help veterans walk again. He trusted them. He trusted me." Her voice cracked. "They destroyed him, his mind, his soul. And when I tried to expose it, they buried it. And him." Tyler's jaw clenched. "They turned your son into a weapon?" Eleanor nodded. "And now they're trying to do it again, on a bigger scale. Civilian testing. Behavioral compliance programs disguised as therapy." Tyler's eyes widened. "They're building an army of broken people." Garrison stepped forward. "Then we hit them before they scale it." Eleanor pulled out a blueprint, a medical research facility on the city's edge. "Facility X," she said, "that's where they're preparing the next trial. New test subjects arrive in 4. Tyler's fists balled. "We're not waiting that long." Eleanor locked eyes with him. "You're not the same angry boy who screamed at me that day." "No," Tyler said. "Now I know what I'm fighting for." Later that night, as the team mapped out their infiltration plan, a quiet knock came at the back entrance of the bookstore. "Lena!" Eleanor's nurse opened it. A young man in scrubs stood there. His voice shook. "My name is Ryan," he said. "I work at Facility X. I saw what they did. I want to help you." Eleanor stepped forward. "Why should we trust you?" The boy reached into his pocket and pulled out a dog tag. Eleanor gasped. It was her son's. "I was with him," Ryan said. "But he's not dead." Everyone froze. Tyler's voice cracked. "What do you mean?" Ryan swallowed hard. "They're keeping him alive and they've turned him into something else." The screen zooms in on Eleanor's stunned, trembling face and fades to black. The early morning fog hung thick over the city. Tyler checked the gear one last time in the back of Garrison's truck. Eleanor stood nearby, lacing a black tactical vest beneath her coat. Despite her age, her hands didn't shake, her eyes burned with purpose. "This isn't just about him anymore," she said. Tyler nodded, gripping the steering wheel. "I know." They were going in without backup. Just 4 of them, Tyler, Eleanor, Garrison, and Ryan. And ahead of them, Facility X, a place where science had been twisted into something monstrous. Facility X looked more like a corporate biotech campus than a government black site. Glass walls, trimmed hedges, smiling security. But underground, Ryan had said it was something else entirely. "We don't go in through the front," Ryan whispered. "There's a side maintenance tunnel unguarded during shift change." At 3:12 a.m., they moved, quiet, swift, down into the cold concrete underbelly of a lie built on human suffering. The tunnel opened into a stark white corridor, empty to empty. Their footsteps echoed. Every door they passed had a code. Eleanor stopped at one, keying in numbers from memory. The door hissed open, and inside, rows of beds, monitors beeping. Men and women restrained, pupils dilated, murmuring to ghosts only they could see. "Subjects in Phase 3, Ryan said quietly. "Memory suppression, neural control, behavior manipulation." Tyler's throat tightened. This wasn't treatment. It was engineering. "Rooms..." Ryan paused. "He's in here," he said. Eleanor's hand hovered over the door handle. Tyler put a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to." But she was already opening it. Inside, under pale blue light, a man sat restrained to a chair, tubes feeding into his arms. Gaunt, silent, but unmistakably her son. "Matthew?" Eleanor breathed. He didn't look up. Matthew, it's me. It's Mom. Still nothing, but a tear slid down his cheek. Somewhere inside, he knew. They began to unhook him. Ryan deactivated the restraints. Tyler and Garrison covered the hallway. 5 minutes tops, Ryan said. Then we're ghosts. But that's when the alarms blared. Intruder alert. Sector red lights strobed. Doors slammed shut. Footsteps thundered in the distance. They know we're here, Garrison shouted. Armed guards swarmed the corridor. Tyler slammed the door shut just in time. He and Garrison fired back. Precise, controlled. Ryan helped Eleanor lift Matthew, half-conscious and mumbling. We can get out through the med tunnel, Ryan shouted. They turned, running down a narrow hall as bullets chased their heels. Garrison grunted, a bullet grazing his arm. He kept moving. They had to. For Matthew, for the others, for the truth. The med tunnel was blocked. Their only exit now, an abandoned elevator shaft to the roof. We repel, Garrison said, tying the ropes. We don't have time, Tyler yelled. Then fall fast, Garrison snapped. Eleanor went first, cradling Matthew's limp body. Ryan followed, then Tyler. Garrison covered them, eyes scanning the darkness. But just as Tyler reached the bottom, a gun cocked behind him. Tyler froze. A silhouette stepped forward from the shadows, pistol raised. Never thought I'd see you again, the man said coldly. Tyler's blood turned to ice. It was his old foster brother, Jason. Years ago, they were like brothers, but Jason had disappeared. Now, he was working for them. I told them you'd show up, Jason sneered. And they gave me one job, bring back the woman, or kill her. The screen zooms in on Tyler's stunned face, as Eleanor, still descending, unknowingly steps into Jason's line of fire. Tyler stood frozen in the narrow elevator shaft. Jason's pistol gleamed in the red emergency light aimed directly at Eleanor, still guiding her son down, unaware. Step aside, Ty, Jason growled. She's not worth your life. Tyler's breath came in sharp bursts. You're my brother, he said. You helped me survive the system. Jason's grip didn't falter. And now I survive a different one. Tyler stepped between the gun and Eleanor. Jason flinched. Move, Jason warned. No! The silence cracked with the pull of a trigger. Bang! Eleanor screamed. Tyler staggered. For a moment, everything froze. Then, Jason gasped. A bullet tore through his own shoulder. He dropped his weapon, collapsing against the wall. Behind him stood Garrison, bloodied but alive, pistol in hand. I don't miss, the colonel muttered. They had no more time. Garrison tossed the rappel rope down and slid one-handed toward the rooftop. Tyler helped Eleanor with her son. Ryan brought up the rear, eyes darting in panic. Alarms still blared. Security teams scrambled throughout the building. They reached the rooftop, gasping, just as a searchlight swept across the sky. A helicopter hovered in the distance, not theirs. No extraction, Garrison said grimly. We improvise. Eleanor knelt beside her son. He'd been mostly silent through the chaos, barely conscious. Now, as the cold wind swept his face, Matthew stirred. Mom, he croaked, her heart twisted. I'm here, baby. He opened his eyes, distant fog. They made me... I hurt people. Eleanor's face crumpled. It wasn't you. They took your mind. But he shook his head slowly. No, they still control me. And then his body spasmed. A chip, embedded in his neck, blinked red. What is that? Ryan gasped. Garrison's face went pale. They left a kill switch. Help him, Eleanor begged. Tyler looked at Ryan. Can you get it out? I need tools, time, neither of which we have. The blinking increased in speed. Matthew's breathing became erratic. They're going to terminate him remotely, Garrison said grimly. We need to block the signal, Tyler snapped. Ryan fumbled through his bag, pulling out a jammer. It might work for a few minutes. He activated it. The chip flickered and paused. Matthew slumped, breathing slowly, temporarily, but not for long. As dawn broke, the team slipped into an abandoned train tunnel to regroup. They were alive, but hunted. And Matthew's chip was still active. Tyler stared down the tunnel, heart heavy. Then Garrison's phone buzzed, a secure military line. Only one person could call it. He answered. A deep, gravelly voice came through. Colonel Garrison, Dr. Hayes, you've made quite a mess. Garrison stiffened. General Holloway, he said. The voice chuckled. You still think this is about one soldier, one experiment? Tyler leaned in. You're going to be exposed. But Holloway's voice was cold and calm. "You're already too late." A screen in their hideout flickered to life. A live feed from across the country. Phase 4 trials begin today. Rows of patients, young, old, strapped to chairs. And at the center of the facility, a second Eleanor. No, not her. A deep fake. Her face, her voice, authorizing the trial. "They're using your identity," Ryan whispered in horror. Eleanor sank to her knees. "They're gonna pin it all on me." And Tyler, fists clenched, stared at the screen. "We end this, now." The camera zooms in on the fake Eleanor speaking to a crowd and fades to black. Tyler's hands shook as he stared at the live feed. The fake Eleanor smiled calmly on screen, surrounded by journalists and doctors. "All protocols have been reviewed," the false voice said. "Phase 4 is greenlit." Eleanor turned away, her voice hollow. "That's not just a deepfake, it's my voice print. They cloned it." "Then we go in loud," Tyler said. "No," Garrison said, shaking his head. They'll expect that." "We go in smart." Inside their temporary hideout, they sketched out the blueprint of the Phase 4 facility, an old psychiatric hospital repurposed into a biotech testing center. Ryan explained, "There's one way to break their system, the source server. It's where they house and control the digital ID fabrications and live command overrides." "Shut that down," Tyler said, and the broadcast collapses. Garrison nodded, and the world sees the truth. "But it's heavily guarded," Ryan warned. "Only one person has access." Eleanor looked up. "Let me guess. Holloway." Under the cover of night, the team moved in. Eleanor remained with Matthew at a backup safe house. He was still weak, and the kill switch in his neck hadn't been fully disabled. Tyler, Garrison, and Ryan approached the Phase 4 site through an underground maintenance tunnel. Security was thick. The facility buzzed with false celebration, doctors and staff preparing for the televised launch. Tyler watched through a vent as young, vulnerable patients were wheeled into rooms. "This ends tonight," he whispered. Reaching the source server wasn't easy. Motion sensors, guards, firewalls, both digital and real. But Ryan was brilliant. He disabled the alarms. Garrison covered the hallway, and Tyler reached the server rack. He stared at it. Inside this humming metal coffin was the machinery used to erase identities and rewrite truths. He placed the flash drive, Eleanor's last-ditch digital kill switch, into the terminal. "It's working," Ryan whispered. "Keep it steady." Lights flickered. The feed began glitching. The fake Eleanor's face distorted live on every screen. And then, the emergency lights switched on. Intruders detected in Sector C. Meanwhile, Eleanor cradled Matthew's head as he slept. Suddenly, her backup phone rang. A voice on the line, deep and familiar. "Eleanor, you were always smarter than the rest." Her blood ran cold. "Marcus," she whispered. General Holloway chuckled. "I warned you, didn't I? And now you've dragged your son back into hell." "You used him," she hissed. "You used all of them, and you're about to lose him again." She stood. "You'll never touch him." "Oh, I already have," Holloway said smoothly. "And I've got one more surprise for Tyler." As the servers overloaded, Tyler and Ryan turned to escape, but alarms blared louder. From the opposite hallway, a metal door slammed shut. Smoke filled the corridor, and out stepped Jason, alive. Wounded, but not finished. "I told you before, Ty," he growled. "I was given one job." Tyler stepped forward, fists clenched. "You don't have to do this." Jason lifted his pistol. "Yes, I do." But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Eleanor's son. Not weak, not injured, fully upright. Expression blank, eyes glowing faintly. Tyler's heart dropped. "Matthew?" Eleanor's voice crackled through the headset in Tyler's ear. "No, he's been activated." Ryan stared in disbelief. "They turned him into a sleeper. He's their failsafe." Tyler slowly raised his hands. "Matt, listen to me, man. You don't want to do this." Matthew stepped forward, robotic, silent, gun in hand. Jason smirked. "You thought this was about saving him?" Tyler's voice cracked. "He's her son." Jason lowered his weapon. "No, Tyler, he's mine." The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Garrison's voice boomed over comms. "Get out now!" Matthew's finger curled around the trigger, and the screen fades to black. Red light bathed the corridor. Matthew stood between them, gun raised. Emotionless. Dead-eyed. Tyler's voice trembled. "Matt, you don't have to do this." Jason stood behind him, bleeding but smiling. "You don't get it, Ty. He's perfect now, programmed, controlled, loyal." Tyler shook his head. He's not a machine. He's her son. Jason laughed. He's mine now. Suddenly, a static burst over the comms. Eleanor's voice came through. Matthew, listen to me. Please. His hands twitched. The gun trembled. Do you remember the sandbox in our backyard? She asked. Where you used to bury your toy toysers. You cried when one got lost. His eyelids flickered. I found it days later, and you told me, it's not lost, Mom. It's just hiding. Oh, pause. Matthew blinked. I'm not lost, he whispered. And for the first time, his hands dropped. No! Jason roared, rushing forward. He raised his pistol toward Eleanor's son. Tyler moved faster. He lunged, tackling Jason to the ground. The two struggled, fists flying. But Jason was weaker than before, bleeding, desperate, broken. Tyler pinned him, breathing hard. It didn't have to be this way. Jason coughed. You always wanted to be the hero. I just wanted to stop being the villain. He knocked Jason unconscious. And for the first time, Tyler chose peace. With Jason down and Matthew regaining lucidity, Ryan completed the upload to the corrupted server. The kill switch system blinked off. The fake Eleanor broadcast went dark. Every file, every lie, went live to the press. Footage, reports, voice memos, medical abuse logs. They didn't just shut it down, they exposed it. Within 24 hours, the world changed. General Marcus Holloway was arrested in his private compound, screaming about national security. Senators called emergency hearings. The names of test subjects were read on live television. Some families cried, others marched. The real Eleanor Hayes gave a televised statement standing beside her now healing son. This wasn't about one soldier, she said. It was about remembering that humanity cannot be manipulated, erased, or rewritten. Weeks later, Tyler stood at the steps of a small rehab center. Eleanor had opened with Garrison's help. He helped former test subjects relearn simple things, how to walk, how to speak, how to smile. He no longer wore leather or sunglasses, just a name tag. Tyler, volunteer. He spotted Matthew across the courtyard, playing chess with a boy in a wheelchair. They both laughed. Matthew glanced up at Tyler and gave a nod. It said everything. Jason, meanwhile, sat in a high-security facility, isolated and silent. The last time Tyler saw him, Jason didn't speak. He just looked through the glass with hollow eyes, and Tyler had finally understood, some people break, others bend, and some, if given the right hand to hold, heal. One cool morning, Tyler joined Eleanor on a bench outside the rehab center. They sipped coffee quietly. He finally said, I still hate myself for that day when I yelled at you. She smiled. You saw me. You didn't understand me, but you saw me. And now? He asked. She looked at him, kind and strong. Now I see you. The world doesn't change with noise. It changes with choices, small ones, like helping someone across the street, listening instead of judging, choosing to stand when it would be easier to walk away. Tyler once yelled at an old woman who moved too slow. He ended up helping her move the world forward. The people we ignore may be the ones who change our lives forever. And sometimes, redemption doesn't begin with saving others. It begins with listening, owning our wrongs, and doing better. What did this story teach you about second chances, forgiveness, and the quiet heroes around us? Have you ever misjudged someone only to realize how wrong you were? Tell us in the comments, and if this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful, true-to-life stories that remind us. One act of cruelty can spark a lifetime of healing if we choose to listen,